I will not die easily. I am a warrior.
Okay, so welcome to Famous When I'm Dead podcast. My name is Sam King Davis. I'm your host, and in this podcast we talk about what it takes to be a successful artist while you're still above ground. So today I'm really excited to interview this guy, award-winning caricaturist, painter, designer, also the world's fastest caricature artist. That's a pretty awesome title to have under your belt. Member of the International Society of Caricature Artists. My man from the Dominican Republic. Are you still living in the Dominican Republic?
No, I live in Pennsylvania, Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Okay, that's very, very different culturally.
Thank you so much for bringing me on the show. That's really awesome what you put together here for us.
So we got Alani Jimenez. So cool, man. Yeah, it's good to see you. I think the first time we met, I remember I think it was at ISCA in California, maybe? Or maybe it was...
I've never been to California, so it's likely to have been...
Arizona? Yeah, and I remember we got like a circle going and we were doing push-ups to get pumped up for the conference.
Oh, man. Wow. That was such a long time. It was crazy.
Yeah, so that was cool. That was my first one. That was my first.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So we're talking about the International Society of Caricature Artists convention that happens every year, and that year it was in Phoenix. And for those of you who don't already know, it's a huge convention where artists come together from around the country and around the world, and we compete, and there's conferences and lectures and just debauchery and just an awesome time. It's a 5-day long competition, and yeah, you get to meet your heroes and just have a good time. And I learned a lot. It's like such good inspiration for me to keep me going. I remember as a caricature artist, for me it was like the first time where I realized like, oh, this is a career. Like I could actually do this for a career. So
indeed.
So, man, I figured we would just start off by talking about your journey a little bit, you know? I want to keep it loose and keep it organic, but it's always interesting to me, like, how people actually get into doing caricatures, and you're also designing and painting as well. But how did you get started, or do you want to take us through kind of like how you...
Sure.
Yeah.
I think I started in 2005. Over in Dorney Park, and this is my local theme park here. I got trained by an artist that had been doing this for 14 years, Tim Reed himself, and he showed me a few things, showed me the manual to the company that we were working with, way of training, and simply taught me how to handle the marker, and that was really cool. He's definitely, he had been doing it for 14 years, so his lines were super clean, his very precise, so it was just really nice to have someone who knew what they were doing, showing me the works, and that's how I got started. It's been 15 years since then.
Man. Well, what were you doing before that?
Before that, I was working in rides at that same theme park. And before that, I was working... in that same theme park doing games, running games. So, like, being a ride operator and a game operator. So I would make sure that the coins went in and all that stuff. Yeah, it was very interesting to say the least. I learned a lot.
So when you started doing caricatures, did you have like an idea that this was actually like an art form, or like how seriously did you take that when you saw those guys doing that?
it was interesting because I got to know about caricatures from my dad and from magazines and things like that, because my dad used to do caricatures, and I got to see, if I could get you some resources of when he did it, if there is any out right now. But ultimately, that was in the Dominican Republic where I got to hear about that. There were newspapers and all of that. I just didn't know that, like you said, like, oh man, this could be a career. I had no idea, so when I was working in rides, across one of my rides, I saw the caricature booth, and I was like, oh my God, I want to go over there on my break. So I went over there, and I asked them, how do you apply? And I thought it was going to be the most difficult thing ever, They said, oh, you just go to the office and fill out the application. I was like, oh, okay. I'll go over there on my break. Did that, and it's all been awesome from there.
Huh. So when you started training, one of the things that I found interesting is I don't know if you've ever met or know about Chance McGee. He's a caricature artist. He lives over here in Dresden, and he was telling me, I think he started in Six Flags over Texas or over Dallas, and he was telling me, like, when he got started, they didn't even let him start drawing faces or even features for like the first 2 weeks. He was just drawing lines and circles. So that was the same for you. Yeah.
Oh man, no. It's interesting. Usually the training is about a month. For me, it was a week and a half, and then they threw me out there to sell right away. Now, mind you, not right away, actually. They actually did say, you got to draw people in by calling them over, and you're just doing it for practice, so that I can get my chops going and everything. And after that, after like a week of that, then they said, okay, you're ready, So that was really interesting. So it was less than a month, and I was put out there. I didn't know what the heck. But it felt interesting to just be able to draw someone and actually get paid for it. Like, are you serious? And my mind was like, I can't believe this is happening. This is awesome. Being outdoors, drawing, making fun of people, and getting paid for it. Like, are you kidding me? That's insane. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the theory was behind Chance's experience was like, he's got to be so confident and clean with that line work. And now when you see his drawings, it's like, man, the line work is just, just to watch him draw it, it's like enjoyable, It's like, have you ever seen these videos that it's like people making cotton candy and then like cutting Laffy Taffy and like popping bubbles? It's like visual, it's so...
Candy, eye candy.
Yeah, it's just fun to watch them do it because the lines are so clean, but...
And you said Chance?
Yeah, Chance McGee. Yeah,
McGee.
Oh yeah, let's do a quick shout out for you, for all of us. If you want to find Alani, like while you're watching the interview, you can find him at Mr. Alani J. You want to spell that?
Yeah, you got it. It's Mr.ALANI and J.
You can find him on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and for me, it's King Davis Art altogether on Instagram. And Chance McGee's worth looking up too. Chance McGee Kunst, Kunts, Kunst. No, Kunst. That's the German word for art. So check him out. So
that's so cool.
So yeah. So you started there, and then when did you realize that it was going to be like your thing, or did you ever make a commitment to it, or what was that like?
Here's the commitment. I was actually taken from that park and transferred to go work at another park that same season, my first season, in Chicago. And guess who was working there?
Let me guess. Nolan?
Yep.
Really? Oh shit! I win the prize.
Nolan was working there, and get these off of here. Nolan was working there, and also Dexter and Sergio Mateos and Abel, all of those amazing artists. We got Mike Rash. We got I mean, there's Boris. I mean, there's so many really good artists. But Nolan. Oh, and David Cummings was there. You know David Cummings?
No, I don't. No.
Oh man, yeah, he's one of the fastest artists I've ever seen draw anything. I mean, but yeah, he's worth looking into. He was. They were all inspirations to me. You know, to doing clean lines and to really pushing the line quality, to really look at the subject before starting, and all of that was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I'm like, wow, how, you know, so, you know, watching the process, as you have seen, it's really nice, really satisfying, if you will. I totally understand where you were coming from when you were speaking about the other artist. You said his name was
Chance McGee.
Chance McGee.
Yeah.
Insane. Can't wait to look him up. Now that I know he's like an inspiration to you. That's really awesome.
Yeah, he's got a really interesting story. He like got out of caricatures for a long time, and then actually he met me in Prague on the honeymoon vacation with his wife, and he was like already thinking about going back to caricature, and then it was like fate. Like we met on the street. I wasn't even on the street that I usually was on. And I just remember like the look on his face when he like walked over to me. He was like eyes really huge, and if you know Chance, he's got big bug eyes anyway, and he like kind of floated over to me and left his family like, you know, behind in the crowd. And he was saying like he was unhappy with his job and everything, and he's been thinking about doing caricatures. I'm like, man, you can do it. And I kind of was grateful to be like an inspiration to him, because I was an American that, you know, came to Europe and lived here, and then like started my caricature career just on my own. So now he's doing caricatures, and he's still doing illustration, but yeah, he's doing it.
So,
Yeah, it's cool.
Was that your first year you were doing it?
Man, it's weird because I had an idea to do caricature before I came over. I bought Tom's book, The Mad Art of Caricature, so anyone who's interested in learning, that's definitely a good place to start, maybe the best place to start. And yeah, so that's how I learned, and then I came over and I was trying to teach English, and that really wasn't that into that. Yeah, and then I just started working for tips and trying it out on the street, and it just snowballed really quickly, you know. I was like making more money doing that on the street for tips than I was teaching, so... and then I'm grateful that I have a background in entrepreneurship and sales and business and stuff, so I was able to kind of roll that into a business. And yeah, so that actually segues pretty good into like what I want to talk about anyway. So you got your start there, and then like how long after that was it until you started thinking like, okay, this is going to be my thing. I'm gonna make a hustle out of this. I'm gonna make a business out of this.
Well, I was referred to the company that I currently work with. At the time, Creative Caricatures. Now it's Uncommon Artists, Uncommon Caricatures and Face Paint. And really amazing that I was given the chance to work, you know, at fairs and things like that, because, you know, it was a, you know, higher activity kind of setting, if you will. So like from there, you know, working with other artists who were sort of drawing one after the other, you know, like right away, you know, not waiting too much at all. I learned a lot from that, and it was really good to see how everything developed, how each artist had their own interpretation of a phase and their own processes to get to the end result. It was just mind-blowing to see all of the different ways that someone can approach an eye, can approach, drawing a nose, can approach starting the face in its entirety, just, whether with hair or, with the face shape. I was taught that I would start with the face shape, and that's what I would always, do. But I would see people start with the nose, and I'm like, how are you doing that? It was like trying to walk backwards if you've never done it.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, like very, very cool to take that and learn from that, and ultimately not only see their process but also learn their process. Even if I don't use it all the time, I use it sometimes, and it's like sort of like I feel in a way like an MMA fighter when they know their sparring as well as their ground game, their footwork as well as their punching, just left and right, and all of that really encloses everything together. So that's really, really awesome, and what it's all about is the learning from the others and helping others as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is what was a big challenge for me when I first got started, and really even until now, was the lack of community here. I really have always wanted to work with a crew, but unfortunately the caricature scene in Europe is not quite, it's not even close to the US. I mean, it doesn't even hold a candle. And especially in the Czech Republic, it's kind of like old, the old European style caricatures, and a lot of the guys are just like old portrait artists. So, and they just do caricatures kind of on the side or whatever. So it's a very, like, I feel like very much like an island and kind of isolated here, which is why I was happy to meet Chance. Also, Paul Evanese lives in Berlin. And sometimes we work together, and sometimes Chance and I work together. So it helps to have also
Berlin,
Volta.
that close to Prague?
It's about a 4-hour bus ride.
That's not too bad. Wow.
Yeah, and Dresden is only 90 minutes by bus. And also Volta Klintz, she's pretty new to the game, but Paul trained her essentially. So we have a little community going over here, and then my homeboys in Vienna, the Vienna crew, those guys.
Okay.
So it's cool, but they don't live in the city, so I don't really have a crew. So that's why when I found Iska, I was like, oh my god, it like quenched my thirst for like other people who actually did it,
Yeah. Wow, that's impressive that you though were pushing yourself to do it.
Yeah, man. It was kind of like the most obvious option because I was teaching at a preschool, which was fun, but it was a lot of work, and I would do it like twice a week, and I would make $40. I would work 4 hours, and then I'd make $40, and then I think it was like the second or maybe the third day that I went out and drew caricatures for tips. I made like 3 times that amount in 6 hours.
3 times that amount.
So I was like, right then, I was like, yep, I'm gonna go for this. Yeah.
While you're there, I'll have you say hello to everyone who's on the live right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast.
Awesome.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. He's interviewing me for the podcast, Famous When I'm Dead.
Yes.
I would love for you guys to check it out. Go follow the page right now on Instagram, and that way you can see my interview next, what day?
It's either going to be this, oh, you know what? I'm going to do a double feature. It'll be you and Nolan on Monday. I'm going to release both you guys on Monday.
On Monday. At what time?
I don't know what time yet.
All right, on Monday, look for it. Turn on your post notifications for it so that way you guys don't miss it. There's a lot of fun going on right now, and he's going to be having some artwork displayed, and I will be critiquing it from those of you who have sent your artwork as well as your questions. So we'll see you guys next time. Just wanted to give you a little teaser. See you on Monday.
So speaking of that, let's talk about that, man. You're like you're on fire, dude. You're like the hustling king.
Bro, I just want to help people, man.
Yeah.
That's what I do, you know. It's interesting because through that same method of thinking, I've helped a lot of people start their business as a graphic designer. It's one of those things where I worked for a company for a while, and this was simultaneously. I literally graduated college during the time I was going to school to graduate for graphic design as I was already working caricatures. But at the same time, as I was doing school, I was already doing graphic design. So they literally started at the same exact time. So I have 15 years of experience for caricatures and 15 years of experience for graphic design. And so I worked with different companies while the season was not going on with the theme parks to do graphic design.
Oh, nice.
So it's interesting, yeah. And through doing that, a lot of people literally would come to me to start their business, to get their logos done, their branding done, their business cards, flyers, brochures, or menus, websites, apparel, all that stuff. And my specialty was taking what they said and making it into a reality. They would tell me what colors and everything, and I would make it happen. And through that, people, there was a voting going on for the best graphic designer in the Lehigh Valley for the community, and I was voted through those people that I helped over 500 clients. I mean, I helped a lot of people to start their business, and I was super happy to do so. My main mentality behind it is I would get bored from doing the same thing over and over. I mean, that's what a job is, isn't it? Like this routine every day. But through art, there was always a difference and something to be learned and something new to be done. Some new idea to use the same exact medium, 3.5 by 2 inches. 3.5 inches by 2 inches business card used in totally different arrays, different ways. And that was awesome. That was interesting to me. And I feel like that's what really sparked things up for caricatures as well for me, because it's drawing different people every single time. It's always a pursuit of knowledge. I always sort of learn something, and that's, to me, the greatest thing is to not only learn something, but also give back to people.
Well put. Actually, that's one of the trends that's happening in the business world right now too. That it's interesting that it's happening, because I think when a lot of people consider the business world, let's say in the 50s or before that, it's about like, selling as many products as you possibly can, despite like what effect it has on the environment or people or whatever. And obviously that's kind of a blanket statement. But nowadays, any of the entrepreneurship stuff that I look at or business stuff that I look at, the trend is moving toward actual service and like actually adding like real value to people's lives. And I think business was kind of always about that, at least a little bit, but now like it's totally about that. Especially now that like the manufacturing jobs and all that stuff, a lot of that's becoming automated and it's becoming more of a service industry. So I think that's just really cool. I hope that most people will be able to like do that, keep those two things kind of pure,
Yes.
But yeah, I mean that's what I'm doing with the podcast actually, because as I'm sitting here with this COVID crisis, I'm like having these kind of anxious meltdowns, and I'm like, man, I gotta give back. Like I might not be making any money, but I have to do something that like gives back to people and gives people hope, and because that's the only way that I'm gonna be okay, is if I'm like taking some role. and putting some value in like what am I packing into the stream of life, you know?
Yep.
And so that's why I'm doing the interviews, because I love talking to talented people, but also the give back thing. And then I'm starting to do this thing on Wednesday, like Wise Wednesdays. So I'm just sharing like practical knowledge every Wednesday. So I'll be coming out with a video.
What's that? Is that on here?
Yeah, it's on the same station. It's on the same King Davis Art channel. Yeah. I came out with one today from this book called The Untethered Soul. And then the next Wednesday, it's going to be about money and financial, let's say like financial sobriety or financial security or something.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's cool, man. That's cool that you come at it like that. So I guess my next question on that would be like, when did you really like jump on the horse with that? Because like you're doing really well on Instagram and you're like, you got stuff going all the time. You're like always got some live videos going or contests going or something.
You know, I get a lot of inspiration now from Gary Vee.
Oh yeah. Gary
Vaynerchuk, and he's always talking about consistency. And what's interesting is I don't only hear that from him, I also hear it from other artists. You know, obviously quality is important, and it's tough to put quality into your work unless you're being consistent with it. Ultimately, continue your practice like a doctor. You know, we're valued to line translating doctors. You know, every day we draw so that we can get better at our practice. So a lot of inspiration comes from Gary to be able to post consistently, so that as many people as possible get the message. There's a lot of things going on with the algorithms and the Instagrams and everything, but if you're going to do it for that, you're likely not to be happy. You want to do it for others and for you, and you can do it for both you and others just by simply, you know, feeling good about the fact that you're helping others, just like you right now. You're ultimately helping me to be displayed to people who don't know me, and also from this, just helping others is the main thing. But posting consistently helps. Using your tools that in creative ways, just like the business card that we talked about. It could be used as a coupon. It could be used as a grand opening card. It could be used as an introduction or an appointment card. You can use it in many, many ways, and this is no different. This is where I found this bridge gap. This is where I bridge my gap between the graphic design and the digital media, or I should say social media, as well as caricatures. It's always different, and it's always changing the perspectives of people, and by doing a lot of it consistently, you yourself feel like you're helping others, and that in itself is very, very strong, very big to fulfill yourself as a human being. So that's where I have come from, and how I try to approach it is, if any one person can be inspired, I'm happy and I feel really good at the fact that I made a difference in someone's life.
Yeah, that's well put. And actually, it reminds me, I was listening to the interview Joe Rogan and Kevin Hart, and Kevin Hart said something last night that was it's one of those things that you know, but you don't really haven't heard it like articulated before. But basically, that like our job as adults, or let's say like, I don't know how old you are. I'm 36, but our job as like adults who are getting closer to 40 or over 40 or into that age range, middle age, let's say, is to make the next generation better. Like, it's to like help people and teach people the shit that we went through so they don't have to go through it, and then they have a little bit of a head start, like that's a little bit ahead of us. So, yeah.
Ultimately, you want to see what people are doing, and you also not only while showing others, you're actually learning. And I'm not saying you, I'm saying us as a person, as a people. We are constantly learning. And what is it that you're going to digest today is what one would ask themselves. And so you start getting onto social media. Ultimately, for me, for Instagram, the reason I have Instagram is so that I can be inspired by other artists, see what ideas are out there and what has not been done. And just a lot has happened where a lot of ideas that I thought I was doing innovation on, has already been done because I've seen it on Instagram. It's like, okay, they did it already. Oh man,
Yeah.
I thought that a few weeks back, but there it is. Nothing is new under the sun, and you want to create that something, and that something is what will take you to the next level, where you can help people in an entirely different way, not necessarily better than others, but more than anything, in a way that you feel good about it, and you are happy about doing it to help other people, whether improve their art, whether improve their mentality about how to live a fulfilled life, and constantly creating art, And we need to make money. We have to make money to be able to pay the bills. The bills will not stop. So through that help and that mentality and keeping people motivated, people are able to then create. And through the creation process is where they're able to, find their voice, so that they too can, one, help others, second, make money to pay their bills.
Yeah. So I want to change it. I want to change it up a little bit, because I've been trying to get interesting titles to all of these podcasts. And one title I came up with actually kind of has its roots in a workshop that I just did. I did a workshop. It was called Radical Self-Care. And one of the topics that came up in that workshop is that for capitalism to work, people have to think that they're not enough and they need to buy this product to be enough. And that kind of struck me. That struck me in that workshop. And I was thinking, like, how that applies to being an artist and how that applies to, having your own business and all of that. So one title I thought about was, You're Perfect Just the Way You Are, Now Get Better. Because so maybe we can talk about that a little bit, because I think that one of the things that I noticed about artists, and definitely something I noticed about myself, which could have been age, but I have an idea about where that comes from, but is like at least a low sense of self-esteem or self-worth around your art, especially when it comes to like comparing yourself to other artists that have more experience. And I guess just one thing that I'll say, and then I want to pass it on to you, is like, when you see an artist that's amazing, you have to realize that that person sucked. Like, there was a point that they started off where their drawings were not good. I mean, even looking back at when I first started doing caricatures 6 years ago, I mean, I still look at some of my drawings and I'm like, oh man, that's bad. But when I see my stuff from 6 years ago, like, I delete that shit. Like, I don't want any trace of that online. Sometimes I'll do a comparison, though. I'll, like, draw the same people And I'm just fascinated that I have customers that actually come back to me from that time. But that's one of the biggest rewards of caricature art is like sometimes you'll get repeat customers over the years, and you can get your style to see your style develop like that. But the point is that like if you come to the way I see it is that if you come to the field of art and you're like willing to be vulnerable and you're willing to make crappy drawings and you're willing to go through that fire, that's enough. Like you're good enough right there in the sense that like you're willing to put in the work, and eventually, as long as you keep practicing, as long as you stay humble and allow critiques and criticism and actually listen to what people say, you will get better. But it's going to take time. You know, art is not an easy thing. You know, it's something that takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of consideration and knowledge to really make something look amazing. So anyway, I'll let you share on that.
No, I totally agree with that. It's definitely important to be consistent with your learning. And it's one of those things where you look at something and it's tough to just look at a circle and think, okay, you know, it's a circle and I'm just going to draw a circle and that's it. But in reality, you're drawing your mind, your idea of a circle, and you're not really drawing. It's you're making something that's not real into reality. You're literally creating that one thing, and so for the constant improvement, that's there's a lot of inspiration, and yeah, each artist did start off poorly before, but even at that level, you are a step ahead of some other people, but you're also a step behind. So I would recommend to sort of learn where you are in relation to others. Now, some people say just forget it, don't even look at other people's art, just improve, just continually do good, and that's dangerous because you're not able to compare yourself to who you look up to. If you're not able to do that, there's no way that you can seek betterment other than to improve. I mean, how would you know? Ultimately, like this applies to everything, including drawing, including painting, everything. How do you know whether you're good? How, oh, well, because people tell you you're good, you think you're good? No, great, you have the gratification. You hear other people tell you you're good. To me, when people tell me I'm good, I'm like, I'm so bad, Like I compare myself to Joe Bloom. I compare myself to...
Oh, you're way better than Joe Bloom.
Get out of here. No, I compare myself to them so that I know that there's a lot more to go for me to learn to become better. And interestingly enough, what I look at now from Joe Bloom's work is stuff from like 10 years ago, which is when he was not as good, if you will. You know what I mean? Like he's gotten better now. And that in itself is overwhelming. Like, that's when you know that there's people with talent that can really get things early on, and that people can grasp concepts better than others. So if that doesn't answer your question, at least it'll let people know that you can improve and you can do it as long as you have that consistency, constantly improve on something. And even if you have that talent, when you have a talent of drawing or of a certain medium or what have you, you can grasp the concepts better than other people. That's literally what, and you have the passion, hopefully, that's the other talent, whether you have the passion or you don't. Even if you're good at it, you may not have the passion to do it. But if you have the passion and you are able to grasp concepts better than others, you are literally in need of taking less time to practice so that you can understand something. Cool. You don't practice enough and you're amazing. That's insanely cool, right? But if you did practice, right, what could happen then?
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't, you wouldn't know. If you haven't practiced, you wouldn't know. Once you step into that, it's a matter of continually getting to know what you don't know. What is it that you don't know? How do you know that you don't know that one thing? And for me, it has to do with practicing in an organized and conscious way.
Mm-hmm.
Where, okay, let's say I'm going to draw a line straight down the page. If my line is jaggedy and it's not how I wanted, how I envisioned it, then that means I now know that I don't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you have known unless you actually try?
Yeah, and there's a quote that it's not practice that makes perfect, it's perfect practice that makes perfect. So that's important too, but also this idea about it's 99% or it's 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And for me, I used to be impressed with people's artwork that was at a high level. I would look at it and I would say, oh my God, they're so talented. I wish I had that kind of talent, you know, and that's, as a younger artist, like that's how I thought. And then now, like looking back, I'm like, I'm impressed with the image at first, but then right away, like I'm like, man, that person, he must have practiced for 10,000 hours or 20,000 hours to be able to do that. And so for me, I'm more impressed now with the amount of work that goes into it, because I can see that, like, even if you don't have quote unquote talent, which most people aren't just naturally inclined. Like you mentioned Joe Bloom. Like I remember an interview from him where he talked about when he first got started, he would draw caricatures all day for 10 hours, I guess at Six Flags, I think, if I remember correctly. And then he would come home. He said he would get home, he'd have a glass of water, and then he would just draw for like 4 more hours. I mean, that's 14 hours a day. If you're drawing for 14 hours a day, you're going to get better a lot faster than the guy who's doing it for an hour a day or whatever. So for me, like, it's I've seen people that weren't very good get better very quick because they're dedicated and they put the work in. And I think that work. Yeah, I mean, you can have that. Like when you see art that blows you away, like you can do that. Maybe not right away, but you're gonna have to work your ass off. But you can get that for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. What would you say would be the one thing that drives you to become better? If I could ask you a question.
It's really simple, man. It's like that feeling that I get when I see somebody's work, like Craig Mullins, or like there's so many artists out there. I mean, even caricature artists. Like I'm really impressed with Manny's work. Man, I just have a huge list. I won't go through all the names, but when I see the work, like when I see mastery, like when you see it, you just know it. And there's like this feeling that I get from it. It's like, man, it's like somebody just reaches right into my chest and like grabs something inside of me, you know? And that feeling that I get where I'm like, wow, like that sense of like awe that I get from awesome work. I'm like, I'm gonna do that. Like that, there's like some kind of nuclear fire that happens inside me when I get that, when I see that really masterful work. I'm like, I will be a master. Like I'm gonna do that. And for me, like I'm grateful that there's like an interesting thing about life that I've discovered, which is like sometimes your character defects or sometimes the parts of your personality that might be harsh in some ways can be helpful to you as well. So this goes back to like you're perfect just the way you are. You just have to figure out how to utilize that stuff. And the one for me is like this sort of like cocksureness or kind of belief in myself, which I thank my mom for that. She gave me that. But like when I see artwork that's amazing, I'm like, I can fucking do that. And even if it's like 20 years off, like I know I can do that, you know? I just know that it's going to take hard work, but I know I can do it. And then what happens ultimately is I try to do it and I'm like, oh shit, I can't do this.
You know, even me right now, like people say, oh my gosh, you're amazing, you can draw anything, you know, but for me, like there's those times that I feel that way, but I go back to doing something, another drawing of a different face, and I'm just like totally smacked down with it. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't draw, you know, I can't draw.
Yeah.
How could I can't, this face is so hard, you know, and all these thoughts of humility, you know, come to mind, like, I gotta keep practicing, you know, there's no helping it. You know, it is a study. Every face is different. You just have to find that it factor and, you know, do it the way you would want to do it, because the way you would want to do it, the way you would do it is your own voice, your own way of doing things. And that's ultimately what is hard, is to express it in your way. You know, you can express it in someone else's way by just simply copying someone else's work and morphing that. But if you want to have your own voice and to draw and to be to have a style that people can recognize and all that, you know, people say I have a style. I don't know what it is. I just draw what I think I see, and with the habits I have, and that's another part of it. Habits. You want to create certain habits. You want to practice, and that's again bringing it back to the point. What is it that you don't know that you need to know? And so by practicing is how you find out. By having that consistency, that dedication. There's one more word that I'm looking for.
Commitment?
That's a good one.
Persistence?
That's another good one. When you have, oh man, I will find out and I will let you know a little later. But you have that consistent feeling of improvement. It almost is like right there somewhere. But you want to just continually become better through the use of what you don't know. In my opinion, that's what keeps an artist going. And also experimenting, you know, through the experimenting, you also find out like that I don't know how to do that. You know, I'm going to try that, and that's how you learn. But having that consistency will always be a key thing, and increasing the good habits, using your bad habits for for your own, like
hacking your bad habits.
Yes, knowing what your body just is not used to. Like waking up each morning at 10 a.m. or at 7 a.m. or at 6 a.m. to work out. Your body will naturally do that after you create the habit. After you tell your body, I'm going to wake up at this time, I'm going to do this, and you do it. Let me take it back to the drawing aspect. If you're going to draw a line up and down, you can easily do that as long as you practice that. If you want to draw a perfect circle, if you want to draw an oval in a specific, path, all of that are habits that you can tap into and become better artists as a result. And that's when you start to create your own style through those methods of practice, of habit creation. You say to yourself, I want to be able to do that, and so I'm going to work hard at it to get it. Some people need to practice typing. Some people need to practice running. and so on. But you have to, unless you do it, you can't feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Your body can't feel it. It doesn't know what it takes to actually get to where their idols have gotten to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and style is really interesting. The more you get to know artists, you can see like the style is actually kind of a representation of their personality. So that's one thing that is really interesting about something like caricature, or you see a bunch of different artists drawing the same subject. You can see like how their style or their personality kind of interprets that person. And it's like it's so cool to see that, like people who are more organized and quiet and withdrawn, their work tends to be cleaner and more precise and like orderly, and then people who are really gregarious and wild, their stuff is usually kind of all over the place. So it's really interesting to see that. One thing I want to mention before I forget is about what you just said was I mentioned the word commitment, and also I wanted to talk about that commitment in regards to the road to mastery. And I bring that up because I've just finished these 2 books on mastery over the last 6 months. And the most important thing, I think, I got a lot of good things from the book, but one of the things that really stood out to me was about, if you're on the road to mastery, 95 or more % of the time, you're actually on a plateau. And what's happening is that it doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere. You're trying and trying, and it's hard, and you keep doing it over and over and over, and it just doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere. And then what happens is your brain disengages, and your body and it becomes intuitive. So you don't have to think about it. You don't need your prefrontal cortex to like think about how you're going to make that line or do that gradient or whatever. And then you make a leap, but the leap only lasts a little bit. So and then you get back on another plateau, and you have a lot more to learn. So I think it's important for younger artists and anybody to realize that is on the road to mastery, is that we have to become comfortable with that plateau. We have to know that things are working below the surface that are going to help us to jump forward, but we have to kind of trudge through that plateau to make that leap. And I can say for me that goes right back to commitment, because when I actually made the commitment to be a caricature artist for 10 years, and now I'm 6.5 years now. And I said, I'm going to do this thing for 10 years. Like, no matter what art form I do, if I'm sculpting, if I'm drawing, whatever, it's going to be exaggerated. I'm going to exaggerate. I'm going to do caricatures of buildings. Even if I do buildings, this is what I'm going to do. And that commitment, like, what it did was it removed these distractions, and it opened up a pathway for me. And it was like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to focus. Right. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Great. I love that. Very well put indeed. That it just really takes away your distractions. Ultimately, yes, you want to be distracted less, and you don't want to be on social media all the time. You want to definitely be working on your stuff and on yourself, on your art. For me, when it comes to the social media, yes, I get inspired, but yes, I totally agree with you. Once you are inspired and you're opened up to this, like, yes, I want to draw, and you start drawing, and you just, get in your zone, and you're just like, oh man, this is going to be so awesome. You just get lost in that world. That's where things happen. Yeah. That's where the distractions go away. It doesn't matter who's doing what's calling, what's name, whose car, is being towed outside. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's a matter of, now that you're in this path, what are you going to do with it? Now that you found this little space of happiness, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to communicate it to others? Mm-hmm. What is the story you're trying to tell? Behind each stroke, there's a story. There is, okay, how do you know that it's a slanted line? How do you know, right? And why is it a slanted line? Telling that as a story opens up this, new way of seeing, of communicating, and of laying things out. I mean, it applies to a multitude of things, and it's really, really nice. It feels so good when you say it to yourself, oh man, this is working, oh my gosh, and you have that feeling. For me, like I talk to people about this, this one pencil, like I just really love it. People wonder, what are you using? Oh my gosh, what is that thing? It doesn't even have a name on it. It just is. And I don't even know how I would look it up other than lead holder. But, I started to use this, and I realized, and now I know this as our bodies adjust, and as artists, now we understand that the shape of this changes. Every single stroke you make, it wears a side. And from there, then you either flop at one area that you want to do with a really sharp edge, and then another, really thin, another really thick line with the flatter side, and you start to sort of understand that medium more and more. So that in itself, for me, is now that I know this, how can I use it?
Mm-hmm.
It just, for me, is all about finding those little secrets, those little core truths that will apply to everything. It's just, it's just like drawing one, like I said, drawing one line vertically. Cool. And now you can do that. Now, how can you apply it to many different scenarios?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that a line horizontal is the same as a vertical? It all depends on your angle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's all about the perspective. So that's one of the main things that I wanted to mention is the core truths are real. How will you bridge the gap between this core truth and that core truth? Complementary colors apply to graphic design, painting, and color stick.
Yeah.
Who knew? How would you have known?
Yeah.
Unless you tried it. Unless you saw someone else try it.
Yeah, that's another thing about mastering something is that once you learn how to master one thing, then you can apply that to all things. So there's another deeply rooted principle of mastering any particular topic. Man, we got to move on to the other stuff. We could talk for hours about this stuff. Because I have...
It's been good so far.
Yeah, it's great. We should definitely do it again. But let me pull up the Facebook page here. Do you have the images that I sent you?
You did send me images. Okay, let me look.
I'm gonna pull these up. I might be able to just do them right on my page. Yeah. Is it raining there?
No, it's the fish tank right behind you.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. So I'll pull these up on my page. The first one is... I need to get this guy's name, actually. Give me a second. Let me get his name. It's actually not his name. It's like his handle on Instagram. I'll pull him up real quick.
Okay, so you sent it to me through... Okay. Ah, yes. I got him.
It's Alfierw, ALFIERW 288.
From Dublin, Ireland.
Oh, you know him?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. So here, let me pull it up. This one, it's kind of hilarious, actually. It's a funny pose from you. Looks like a line drawing. Oops.
This one here?
Yeah, hold it down a little bit because it's there you go. Oh, I'm gonna have to edit this part. This is okay, I'll let you just show it. Let me close that down. All right, there it is. There's the funny face. There's you with the stank face. That's your disco face.
That's the let's get down to party.
So he had a question. I was actually looking for it right before the interview, but I couldn't find it. But I remember it was about like how to better use shapes in order to have a better representation of the face. So
here's what I can say right now.
And while you're talking, I'm going to actually pull that up so we can have that image right there.
Sure. As I mentioned before, we are value to line translators, and really depends on how you see the shape. What is the shape that you're actually seeing is the tough part, because although the lighting tells us that we're seeing certain shapes, we're actually not. I guess what I'm trying to say is some people want to approach shape, let's say, of the face as the exact, precise outline of the face, the silhouette. Mm-hmm. And let's say right now, you can look at my face and say, okay, there's the line right there. I see it. There's no line, but ultimately there is a shape applying here. Let's see, right there.
Mm-hmm.
Cool?
Yeah.
But some people, and because of other lighting, would then see a different line right here. And that's a value change. That's not a line. This is the line you want to draw. The very, very outside of the face. And then those values you can apply with the shading later on. You see that? So this little bump usually gets exaggerated on me. Usually.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then there's this shape of my beard. Because of that shape that they initially see, it's a matter of people think that they're actually looking at a shape that needs to be a line drawn because it's so pronounced. It really isn't. This is the line right here that you want to draw.
Mm-hmm.
If you're approaching it from the outside in, right? Ultimately, if you're actually doing the outside in, you would draw the entire silhouette of the hair included, and mm-hmm. then you would draw, and the shoulders, and then you would draw the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest to see shape better, make sure that it's a well-lit photo that you can actually see the outside of the shape, and really force your eye and your hand to lay in these lines mm-hmm. first, if that's the way you're approaching it. Now, if you are approaching it in a more exaggerated way, for me to do that, I like to do the feature that stands out the most first.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, my lips, usually those are drawn big. I have, lips that stand out. And to do that, I would sort of capture the shape of the outside first, lay in some values, and relate it to the other things to then build upon that. Mm-hmm. But it definitely takes a training, and this is what I want to get to, and what the book that I am writing about is. It has to do with those little things that are big things, and it has to do with the relationship between one thing and the other, and it has to do with how one shape can be approached in many different ways, and how you can train your eye to be in sync with your hand. Just simply practicing certain shapes, certain forms, and certain algorithms of a flow from one thing to the next.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Okay. So actually, Manny shot in a question last minute. So we'll get to that in a second. He just messaged me a question. But about the shape, say again?
For me?
Yeah. So if you could hold up the picture one more time, I wanna point something out on there. Okay, so there we go. So the first thing I want to say is practice your line variation. So your line weight and your line variation. But as far as shapes go, you can put it down now. I just wanted to point that out because I thought that's like the first most, yeah. When you use shapes, it's important to realize that a shape is three-dimensional and the thing that you're drawing is three-dimensional unless that's what you're going for is a two-dimensional designy kind of caricature. So I know that it's not sexy to think about a circle and a box, but you gotta think about it like a circle and a box. Like the cranium is a circle, the faceplate is basically a shield that's on the front of the face, the nose has its own shapes, everything has its own three-dimensionality and planes. So what I would recommend is draw all the way through as if you're drawing a sphere. Just start like that, and eventually it'll become second nature and you won't have to do those. You'll be able to do those pre-sketches with your mind. That's if you want to get three-dimensionality to it. But there's so many shapes that we could talk about. We could talk about the T shape and the relationship between the nose and the eyes. There's 100 different things to talk about. But what I would say is I would say, like in the drawing that I saw, it looked like there was a lacking line variation and lacking form. So in order to do the form, to get better at that, it's important to like go ahead and draw the whole sphere, draw the line around the sphere where the eyes would go. That way you get the perspective correct on the face. And buy Tom Richmond's book, The Mad Art of Caricature. That'll tell you everything that you need to know. So let's get to Manny's question. He also, thank you for sending those in. He also has a few other ones, but we're running a little short on time because I got Nolan coming up pretty soon, and I need to take a breath before interviews.
Sure.
Okay, so I see you're interviewing Alani. I have a suggestion. Put a request out there for people's favorite Alani stories from working with him. You'll have the best interview ever. Let's save that till the next one. Let's do another interview, and we'll save your stories till the next one. Because that'll be a while. The one time he spoke Spanish with my customer's mom, telling her he'll give her a discount if she only lets him draw her hands. Then mid-drawing, the mom came and grabbed her kids, and they all got drawn by Alani. And then the lady started screaming at Alani at the register, "Hey, you told me that if I let you and only you draw my kids, you'll give me a discount, so you better give me those 4 mats for free."
Oh my.
You remember that story?
I don't remember that specific scenario. I can tell you that I have gone through a lot, with Manny, and there's been a lot of good and bad stories, like really that we've gone through. So it's been awesome to learn from that, and hopefully show and be a better artist, a person to work with now. So
yeah,
where we're at right now, I feel great about working with my team. We get along so good. Uncommon Artists have really taking control of of how we help others and how we take things to the next level, and through that I have surely learned how, and mind you, the last time I worked with Manny was approximately 6 years ago. So Yeah, we have our good and our bad times for sure. Do you remember the time? Does he remember the time when we were at a booth next to each other, and we were drawing so much that we were just excitedly sort of racing to be the top dog. Like everybody was having fun. Does he remember that? Perhaps that's the question. And also, like, the time that he had, like, he was just acting silly. He had his hat backwards. I've got a fun picture of that. But we have a lot of good history. Like, I feel like with Manny, it's like been sort of a brotherhood. Where there's love and hate. And we just strive to get along with different approaches to life. I can tell you right now, I'm from the Dominican Republic, and we've been sort of hustling since I was a kid. Been doing things in a way that isn't the best practice, where people will easily be uncomfortable with me. So I can tell you that I've overcome a lot of things and become a better person as a result. And I do thank Manny for the many lessons that I learned with him, and I'm hoping that he too, and actually I see it, he too has learned a lot through working with me, through working with others around us, and it's just been awesome to learn from that and become a better artist, better person, to increase our good habits. So, you guys, we can mention the bad stories all day. I mean, but there's also really good stories that have emerged from all of it.
Oh yeah, I think it seemed by the question he just wanted to have some fun with the drama. It sounded like there's a lot of interesting, funny stories. It's always funny. Yeah. I mean, I look back on the customer freakouts as like really, they're kind of fond memories now. I get a kick out of them now. Although at the time my head was about to blow off.
Oh God, seriously. So yeah, for sure.
He says, a serious question though. Ask him about his speed record for the fastest customer stolen from a fellow artist. Actually, let me ask you about this, though, about the speed record, because we only have a little bit of time, and this is perfect time to talk about the speed record. Okay, 3 seconds. So what is how long does it take you to do one? Like, what's your average time?
My average time, if I'm going quickly, would range from about 30 seconds to a minute.
Wow.
For a fake black and white. If I'm trying to make sure that we take care of a long line that's behind us, on a black and white face with decent quality, about 30 seconds to a minute.
Wow. Yeah, and actually, when I first was looking into doing speed caricature, Adam Pate was the first person I ever reached out to. I typed in fastest caricature artist, and I saw the video, and my mind was blown, and I actually called him on the phone from Prague. I was like, hey, you don't know me, but I saw your video. And he was like, yeah, he gave me some... The funny thing is I was like, can I ask you just a couple of questions? And he goes, I got a minute. So I was like, But I don't think he even intentionally did that. That was just something he said, but it was funny because the video that I was watching was called 1 Minute Caricature. But anyway, he mentioned that I get in contact with Iska, and that's how I found out about Iska. But that's awesome, man, that you're able to whip them out like that. I mean, 30 seconds to a minute, that's like, phenomenal, getting a likeness like that. But ultimately, we as human beings get that right away. We got the likeness in a split second. I mean, that's one thing that our human brains are like really good at. So congratulations for that. I hope that you're able to hold on to your title next year, or hopefully this year.
Indeed. I could tell you, to get back to your question as well, I know we have a limited amount of time, but I did each one in 20 seconds at the convention
Whoa.
for the award. So that was, with me drawing at a specific size that they give us and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That was really neat. I was, blown away that I was in the podium with people who have already won the award, Robin Schwartzman and Steve Doris, who was the only two-time speed caricature winner. Like, that's mind-blowing to me, and I really appreciate being up there with them.
Yeah. Done in record time. A topic covered in record time. There you go, folks.
There you go. That's the title.
Yeah.
There's your title.
Oh, nice. Yeah, okay. That's a good one. I'll consider that one.
Natural.
So let's wrap up. So if you like the interview, thank you for watching. I hope that what we talked about helped. Make sure you subscribe below and hit the bell so you'll get the notifications on not only the artist interviews but also the Wise Wednesday stuff. If you want to get a little practical wisdom from your homeboy Sam King Davis. And you can find me at King Davis Art all together on Instagram. You can find Alani at Mr. for Mr. Alani J on Instagram. And yeah, do you have anything you want to plug or?
I mean, as much love as I have for everybody, I have a respect that is abundant towards every single member of the ISCA community and the board, and I wanna say, like, I'm very thrown back at the fact that a board member would ask questions on the feed for me specifically. That's really cool. Hopefully it was different questions, but there's a lot of other good things and creative approaches to things. But I want to definitely thank everybody who's watching. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this, and I look forward to hearing all of your questions and checking out your comments.
Cool. Man, that was a great interview. It's great to talk to you about stuff. I mean, this is the first time we actually had a good hour or two to sit down and talk about that. So definitely.
Yeah, first time. Really. Absolutely.
Is this this is not your first interview though,
huh? No.
Okay. So yeah, let's do it again, man. Definitely. We can get more on a specific topic or talk. Maybe we can do a little bit more critique or something. But I think this was a good overall talk and covered a lot of good stuff. And thanks, man. Thanks for doing it.
Well, I want to also give a shout out to my family, to my kids, Alani and Sayani, and my wife, Cynthia, as well as my parents. They've been a big influence on my drawing career. My dad, has shown me the ropes since I was a child, and my mom has always been painting around me and everything. So that was really awesome.
Cool. And
I just would like to thank you for inviting me on the show today. And I dedicate my work to those of you who are trying to learn caricature, who are trying to learn to draw. You can do it. Definitely don't give up. Continually improve every single day. Put that pencil on that paper pad and start drawing.
All right, Alani Jimenez, everybody.
Thanks so much. AlaniJ.com. Much love to you all. Thank you for trusting me with your face.
All right, cool, man.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you, man. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I'm glad that everything worked out the way it did. Yeah, we did well. I would have said, I changed my lighting. I don't know if you probably definitely noticed.
Yeah, it's better. Yeah.
So that was good. Yeah.
Cool.
Good time for sure.
Hey man, I wish I had more time to chat, but I got Nolan coming up. But we'll talk again soon. And cool. Thanks for being serving and being like ambassador for learning and service in the field of art. It's cool to watch you hustle, and it's inspiring for me. So thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. That's really an awesome title. Take it easy.
Okay. Have a good one.
Yep. See ya.
$2, and the fridge with a padlock, and hell yeah, huge pectoral muscles.